NBA player props here on PrizePicks for Friday, February 3rd. Before I get started, there's a link in the description below to sign up for PrizePicks, or you can use promo code TUFF to sign up. PrizePicks will match 100% of your first deposit. There is also a Discord link in the description where the main server is completely free. We do also have that Patreon link where I do post all the plays here that I'm making on PrizePicks for each given sport that I do play. Now, we hit on both of our YouTube plays yesterday. The Jokic first half PRA cash for us, and then I believe the other play was Darius Garland over 8.5 assists. I think that hit in the first half, actually. So looking to continue with the success we had yesterday here. Again, I'm not a gambling expert, not financial advice, you guys. No one is pressing submit on those parlays except for yourself. So take the information I give you, combine it with the research you've gathered, and then make your player prop decisions based on that. But let's get into you guys. I got two plays for you guys today. We have, again, Fridays have been somewhat good to us overall. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games here on the slate. Obviously, there is some injury news and some things like that we're waiting for, but I got two plays here that I do like. We do have the 6-pick flex Friday, I believe, or $20 free entry, your money back on PrizePicks today. So gonna be a fun one. Let's get into it. The first play that I like today is gonna be Saddiq Bey over 27.5 fantasy score. Now, a player like Saddiq Bey, or just like, I feel like normally on this channel I've been taking superstars or I guess star players as of late, but Saddiq Bey is a player that I have some serious interest in today with his fantasy score. So just based on this, he's hit the over on this 4 of his last 5, with a miss being where he had 19 here against Houston, but had 39, 29, 40, and 35 fantasy points in 4 of his last 5 games. Now, this matchup here has one of the highest over-unders on the slate. It actually might be the highest. Let me just double-check really quickly. Or second highest over-under on the slate at 240 with a 1-point spread. This is a home game for Detroit. A 1-point spread with a 240 over-under. We are targeting fantasy scores in this game, no question. But Saddiq Bey specifically, like I said, since he's been really inserted into the starting lineup, Isaiah Stewart now has gone to the bench. Saddiq Bey playing that small forward position with Bogdan playing the power forward, and then Durant at the center. But just take a look at this. This is a one. He's hit the over on this. We just need 27.6 fantasy for him tonight. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of his last 9 games, he's hit the over on this. And pretty much really, since the beginning of the year, he's played extremely well. 8 of his last 9, technically 9 of his last 11 games, he's hit the over on this fantasy score line. And it's absolute elite matchup against the Charlotte Hornets. So this season, Charlotte Hornets, right? If we go to season, fantasy points to the small forward position, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th most fantasy points to the small forward position, right, over the course of the season. If we take a look at 3-pointers, Charlotte Hornets, the 5th most 3-pointers to the small forward position, the 6th most points to the small forward position, and then the 3rd most rebounds to the small forward position, right? But that's for the season. If we go to last 15, right, Charlotte Hornets to the small forward position, 4th most fantasy points to the small forward position. 3-pointers made, you can see here they're up top 3, 3.78 3-pointers made per game. Rebounds here, they're in the top 5, and then points per game. They are the number 1, giving up the most points per game to the small forward position. Even last 7, Charlotte's still here in the top 5, and then even last 30, Charlotte. You can see your last 30 games, Charlotte Hornets, most points per game to the small forward position. 3rd most rebounds to the small forward position, and overall fantasy points to the small forward position, the 2nd most. All right, Saddiq Bey plays much better here at home as well. We can see here he scores 15.4 points per game at home compared to 13.8 on the road. Shoots a 3-pointer, just 0.4% better here. Shoots from the field almost 3% better. Rebounds per game 0.6 points higher. Assists same as well. But Saddiq Bey, for what it's worth, again, He's had 40 plus fantasy point games against Charlotte in his career. This is a young career, right? You can see here Saddiq Bey, he's played Charlotte with the Pistons, and each game he's gotten over. He had 22, 7, 5, 2, and 2 for 49 fantasy points. He had 28, 8, and 3 for 40.1 fantasy points, and then he had 25, 4, 3, 2, and 1 for 40.3 fantasy points. So 3 different times Saddiq Bey has hit the over on this against the Charlotte Hornets alone. Also, taking a look at this, just some small forwards recently. This is small forwards specifically against Charlotte. Just take a look at in the month of January. We saw Tatum go for 54 and 65, Jimmy Butler 46, and then players with similar offensive role to Saddiq Bey, like OG Anunoby, DeAndre Hunter, and Mikal Bridges, and OG Anunoby here again, 26.6, 28.9, 30.8 for DeAndre Hunter, and 38.8 here for OG Anunoby. Over the last 5 games, Saddiq Bey averaging 1.10 fantasy points per minute, which is higher than like a Kyle Kuzma or even like a Precious Achiuwa, who I think both, or even a Bradley Beal down here, who all 3 of those players have higher fantasy score full game lines tonight. So the first play obviously is Saddiq Bey. Also, there is some odds here for his over, his PRA, I believe. We're looking at Bet Rivers has this over 23.5 PRA at -122. Again, only a 4-point differential from his fantasy score here for Saddiq Bey. And Saddiq Bey is able to get those blocks and steals. We can see here, coming off a game where he had 3 steals against Dallas, 3 steals down here. Has had multiple games here with multiple stocks as well. So, like Saddiq Bey here, over 27.5 fantasy against Charlotte. The second play I'm targeting is going to be an NBA first half prop, and we're looking at Kyle Kuzma under 19.5 fantasy. So, Kuzma, I mean, a player that I really do like. I'm a Laker fan, if you guys didn't know that, but I like Kuzma a lot. But I have to fade him here in the first half, just in general, across the season, regardless of matchup or who's on the court for the Wizards. Kuzma really doesn't get going till the second half. He's more of a second half type of player. He's hit the under on his last 4 games, okay? So it coinciding with Porzingis being back and Bradley Beal being back, both of those 2 players are healthy, which obviously takes a ton of usage away from Kuzma. So we're taking a look at this 236.5 over under. Washington is going to be 4-point favorites, but it's looking like Bradley Beal, Porzingis are both playing, and it slides Kyle Kuzma to the 3 here, right? So he's most likely going to be being guarded by Josh Hart or Jeremy Grant, a combination of those 2 players. So Kuzma here has been, last couple of games, been playing the small forward position. Now, like I said, under in 4 of his last 4 games, all coinciding with Beal being back, and then more specifically these last 2 with Porzingis being back. But just take a look at these field goal attempts. Only 6, 5, 4, and 5 field goal attempts over his last 4 games here. Had this game here where he scored 0 points. He scored 0 points in the first half. 7, 4, 0, and 6 points over the last 4 games here. And it's a super, super tough matchup here against the Portland Trailblazers. We can see here, over the last 15 games, small forwards, Portland giving up the second fewest fantasy points to the small forward position. Second fewest, 34.65 fantasy points, and that's for the full game, right? Second fewest fantasy points to the small forward position here across the board. Even if you take a look at the last 30, sorry, my voice cracking here. Over the last 30, Portland second fewest. I mean, it continues. It's not like this is just something that's been happening over the last 15. Last 30, the second fewest fantasy points to the small forward position. If we take a look at the season here as well, Portland Trailblazers 4th fewest fantasy points to the small forward position here for Kyle Kuzma. With Beal being back and Porzingis being back in a tough matchup here, 19.5 for Kuzma, who doesn't even really get going till the second half. We can see here on the season with Bradley Beal and Kristaps on the court, Kuzma is averaging 36.7 fantasy points for the full game, averaging around 1 fantasy point per minute, which is actually less. He loses, I guess, minus 1.3 fantasy points, and then less 0.1 less fantasy points per minute, and he actually loses negative 5.8 usage with those 2 guys on the floor here. So I'm taking Kyle Kuzma under 19.5. Just I mean, hasn't hit this in 4 of the last 4. Super tough matchup here. Doesn't get going to the second half. I'm taking the under on this one. So these are the 2 YouTube plays here. Saddiq Bey over 27.5 fantasy, and then Kyle Kuzma under 19.5 fantasy. So Bey over 27.5 fantasy full game. Kuzma under 19.5 fantasy first half. Again, drop a like on this video, guys. Let me know in the comments below how you guys feel about these plays. Drop a like, hit that subscribe button, and as always, let's cash.